Hi, I'm Nancy Stark. Welcome to Money Talks. With me today, I have Deanna Booker from Consumer Credit Counseling Service. Hi, Dee.
Hello, Nancy.
Deanna is my financial expert extraordinaire, and she works for Consumer Credit Counseling Service of Maryland and Delaware. Deanna, tell us a little bit about what CCCS does.
Well, sure. We are a nonprofit community service agency. We specialize in all kinds of financial literacy education, financial counseling. We've been helping folks here on the Eastern Shore since 1966, just with all kinds of help, anything financial that somebody might need. So whether it's budget counseling or credit counseling, housing counseling, anything like that, just offering all the help that we can.
And that everything I hear from other people who have used you says just that you are really there for them.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. We try.
I can tell that you try. Well, folks, today we're going to be talking about identity theft. And for those of you who don't know it, next month, October, there is National Identity Week. But we're going to get a jump start. We're going to talk about how to protect yourself so you don't become a victim. And finally, we're going to talk about how to manage it if you do happen to have that problem. And Dee, before we get started, could you, for the people who aren't familiar with it, what is identity theft and why is it so important?
Well, identity theft is when someone steals your personal identifying information. So your name, your social security number, that kind of thing. They steal that information and they use it to commit fraud or to commit some other sort of crime. And it's important and it's a big deal because studies have shown and research has been done, almost 9 million people in this country alone are victims of identity theft. So it's a very prevalent, thing, something that we all have got to be aware of.
That's for sure. It's also, in looking at the FTC, I noticed that it's their #1 consumer complaint.
It absolutely is. The FTC gets more complaints about identity theft than any other sort of consumer crime. More than any other one. So yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Well, let me ask you something. For people who do become victims of identity theft, how does it affect their lives?
Well, it affects their lives, I think, in the sense of the time and the money that it takes to try to correct something like identity theft. On average, again, there was another study done, and the study says that the average person will spend a little bit more than $600 trying to recover, from being a...
you got a chunk of change there already.
Exactly, trying to recover from being a victim of identity theft. And not just the money, the time. It takes hours and hours and hours, of someone's time to try to get out from under being a victim. So it can have a huge impact, Not only that, not only the money and the time, it can impact someone's credit report. If
that seems like it would be an even bigger problem, and you'd be worrying.
Exactly. If somebody's used your information to open a fraudulent account, that kind of thing, that kind of information is going to impact your credit history. So that it can impact job opportunities. If somebody's used your identification and something has gone wrong, that's going to be a part of your record. So, getting a loan, renting apartments, that kind of thing, it really can have a huge impact.
We always talk about the fact that your credit rating is sort of like your identity in the financial world. And obviously anything it's ruining it.
It's like your financial resume, and so if these things happen, if you're a victim of identity theft and these sorts of bad things happen, those marks are going against your resume. So you're absolutely right. It's a big deal. A big deal can have a huge impact.
Well, let me ask you something. When identity thieves go in, what are they looking for? What kind of information do they want?
They want any substantial piece of personal identifying information. So again, your name, your social security number, your birth date, your address, that kind of information that they can use to then open accounts and that sort of thing. Any of that information that they can get that's going to be able to propel them forward in being able to commit some kind of fraud.
And once they have that information, what do they do with it?
Oh my goodness. Well, and that's where the problem comes in.
This is not good.
Right, that's where the problem comes in because identity thieves will do all sorts of things. So they'll open accounts in our name. They will open bank accounts, and so not just getting credit cards or that kind of thing. They'll get bank accounts and write fraudulent checks, you know, that sort of thing. They will use our information and get driver's licenses.
Oh my gosh.
You know, try to qualify for medical services and get benefits and utility accounts and cell phones, all of this kind of thing. You know, they'll do in our name, and then of course not pay the bills, not handle, you know, whatever the account is, and then we're left as the victim because this information has now ended up on our credit report or ended up on our permanent record somehow.
So it ruins it.
Exactly.
That's not a very good feeling.
Not at all.
I've heard, and I've actually seen statistics that show that a significant amount of identity theft is actually carried out by people who we know. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, a significant amount. It's interesting that you use those words. It's like 50%.
Wow.
Javelin just did a study not too long ago, and it said that 50% of identity theft, you know, people that were polled, 50% was committed by friends, family, you know, relatives, people that we have working in our house, you know, if we have live-in help, that kind of thing. And 43% of the people that they polled responded that they knew the perpetrator. So yes, it's a big, big deal, and it is happening, and people that are doing it to us are people that we know.
That's really frightening to think about in a way, because
really
we think
is.
about, like in our home, that it's just us and the people that we know and trust.
Right, and you just don't know. You never know. You never know.
And that's something for people to be aware of.
Exactly.
Well, with that said, I think what we're going to do is move on and talk a little bit about how you can prevent identity theft.
Okay.
And sort of tied in with that, we have a number of viewer questions that have come in. I guess this is a topic that's on everybody's mind.
Good.
The first one that we have is from Brandon, and Brandon writes, I just read an article that said identity theft can happen anywhere, even at home. Just like we were talking about.
Exactly.
What are some of the things we can do to ensure we aren't victimized by people we know?
That's just what we were saying. That's a great question. If you have people that are living with you, if you have roommates, friends, relatives, people that come into your home to work, like I was saying before, you just want to make sure that all of your personal identifying information is secure. Don't leave your purse or your wallet or, you know, those kinds of things out where that information is just there for anybody to pick up. Exactly.
Right.
You want to make sure all of your personal papers, your sensitive documents are locked away. They're in your room. They're in a lockbox. You know, they're secured in some way. Because again, even though it's people that we know and we believe that we can trust, you never really know. So you want to make sure that all of your things are put away. You don't have your information just laying about.
You have your tax form lying there on the table, and everybody can see your social security number, your address. There are a number of different things in it.
All of that kind of thing should be locked away, especially if you have people in and out of the home.
That makes sense. I know another area that oftentimes, from a home perspective, is an identity theft area, is our personal mail. And on that note, we have another question, and this one's from Teresa, and she writes, one of my neighbors recently found out someone has used her identity to open a new credit card account. I've heard thieves sometimes find out information about you from your mail. How can this happen?
That's absolutely true, and it's very scary because you really don't think about the mailbox.
You know,
it's the mailbox. You put your mail in, you get your mail out. But here's a scenario, and we've all done this. You've got something that you need to mail off. It's a bill payment, it's something. What do? We put it in the mailbox and we put that little flag up.
That's right.
To let the mailman know that there's something important in here and I need you to get it. Well, not only are you letting the mailman know, we are letting any identity thief.
That's like a little red flag there saying, hey, come and get me.
Exactly. So the mail, our mail can be so, we really have to make sure we're keeping the mailbox secure. So I'm just a big proponent of not doing that. Don't put those sensitive kinds of things in the mailbox. If you've got something to mail off, it's a bill, something about an account, take it to the post office. Drop it in the slot. You know, just don't leave it in the mailbox. And if you don't have a secure mailbox, because not only are we obviously mailing things out, but we're getting mail in,
which they can also pick up.
Exactly, because some of that information, our sensitive information, is going to be on there, and account numbers and that kind of thing. So if you don't have a secure mailbox, a mailbox that locks, I really suggest investing in one. If not, a post office box, something like that, just so our mail, just so our mail isn't just sitting out there. You know, for anybody can walk up on our porch or walk up to our front door and open our mailbox, and it's that easy for identity thieves to get to our mail that way. So I think we really need to be thinking more about how we can secure our mail. Here's another thing about the mail. If you can avoid it, don't have the kids bring the mail in.
Oh, and I always used to have my little kids do that.
Because you might tell them, oh, get the mail on your way in from the
Save me a
school bus
trip.
or something. Right. We're just not sure. Did they get everything out of the box? Did something drop? You know, we can just be a little bit more assured of it if we're doing it ourselves, or if we have a box that locks, that kind of thing.
It seems like in general with identity theft, it's just a matter of taking precautions.
Exactly.
At least
that's
a
exactly
big help.
right. That's exactly right. Going to the post office, you know, to drop that mail. Yeah, it's going to take you a few extra minutes, but those few extra minutes pale in comparison, you know, to what it's going to cost
what will happen
us. Right.
if you
we
become a
victims.
victim.
Exactly.
Well, another area that we have identity thieves lurking at is the garbage pail or garbage can. When it comes to trash, what can we do to take precautions?
Yeah, you wouldn't think who goes through somebody's trash, but people do. They, you know, dumpster diving and all of that. So if you have things to discard, you want to make sure you do it properly. If they're old statements, old bills, things you want to throw away that have your social security number, your account numbers on them, make sure you're not just tearing stuff in half and throwing it in a can. You're shredding. It really does pay to have a shredder. And you're not just shredding, you're cross-shredding, or you're doing what they call confetti shredding.
So it's tiny.
You're really cutting this stuff up. Sometimes we get something in the mail and we go, oh, I don't want that, and we rip it in half. Well, how easy is it for an identity thief to put those two halves back together?
A little bit of Scotch tape and you're in business.
So we want to make sure that we're disposing of things, you know, our documents and that kind of thing in a proper way.
Is that true for junk mail as well?
Yeah, junk mail. We throw junk mail out, or we get junk mail in, and how many of us we throw it away without even opening it sometimes. So we don't even know what's inside of it. So you want to open it, check it out, make sure, you know, if it does contain any sort of information about you, that you shred it, you confetti shred it, and get rid of it properly.
Exactly. Well, I know along with paper documents like bill statements or bills or old financial records, we've become sort of a digital society, and a lot of the information we have is stored in other ways. Are there any other items that we need to take care of before they go in the trash?
That's a great point. Like you said, digital. There's a big thing around storage media. So if we've got CDs or DVDs, you know, thumb drives, flash drives, you know, identity thieves love to find that kind of stuff in the mail or in the trash, because we just discard those kinds of things and we probably don't even remember. We don't even think or remember what was even on that disc, what was even on that drive.
By the time it's time to dispose of it, it's long gone.
Exactly. So for those kinds of things, you want to make sure with flash drives you're demagnetizing them, whatever. You know, you're breaking CDs in half. You're really disposing of those kinds of things in the proper way, because they contain so much information. Along that same line, it just occurred to me, cell phones.
Oh, that's true.
We're getting rid of our old cell phones. We're upgrading. We're getting new phones, and we may, you know, put the cell phone in for recycling, or we stick it in a drawer, whatever we do with it. It's got that card in there, that data card, that SD card. You don't think about that. That's, I mean, how much of
names,
information?
Numbers,
how much information do we all have on our smartphones these days? You
Even
want to
more.
make sure, you want to make sure that you're getting rid and you're disposing of those items properly. Another thing, I'm thinking of them. Another thing, pill bottles.
I would never even have thought of that.
Think about the label on a medicine, a prescription bottle. There's so much of your personal information.
You don't think about that.
You don't think about that kind of thing. So these are the kind of things we have to stay mindful of when we're talking about really being serious about protecting our identities.
That's all really good advice. And sort of right along the line with that, what we've been talking about is all that information and all the different ways that it's used anymore. All of us have computers at home, just about.
Oh, yeah.
Many of us do. And we have one of our viewers that wrote, I love shopping and doing business online. I love doing that too. What do I need to do in order to make my transactions more secure?
That's a great question, because we're doing so much on the computer. So you just want to make sure that, number one, everything is password protected, and you're getting strong passwords. Our computers are great, you know, for giving us access to all kinds of information online and shopping and everything like that viewer mentioned, but they're also
they take a lot of information from us.
Yes, they're the perfect tool for an identity thief. You know, they really just open us up. to being victims. So passwords, I think, are a big part of that. You want to make sure you have strong passwords. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not, your birthday backwards. It's
exactly.
something. It's a really strong password that an identity thief won't be able to figure out. It's a mixture of letters and numbers and characters and uppercase and lowercase. We really have to have strong passwords. Another thing is only doing business online with companies that you absolutely know and trust. Their sites are secure. You've got that little padlock,
or HTTPS.
Exactly.
Right.
Their sites are secure. You know that company's name, street address, telephone number. You can be certain that this is a good place and a reputable place to do business with. So I think those kinds of things really go far when it comes to how safe we're going to be shopping online.
Well, another thing is with computer and electronic media, it's constantly changing, and one of the things we're really strongly moving toward now is everybody is using Wi-Fi, and not just for your computer, but with your phone.
Yeah.
Are there things we need to know about Wi-Fi as far as being safe?
Right, just when you said that, you said everybody is using Wi-Fi, and in my head I went, not me, because it's just not safe. It's not safe. I really don't think that doing that kind of business, so conducting financial transactions and that kind of thing, from your mobile phone, say, or your smartphone with Wi-Fi is safe, and it's because you're sitting, say, in the cafe that has Wi-Fi,
using a public system.
Yeah, public in the park or something.
Right.
Those connections aren't secure. They're not secure. So they're just open for identity thieves to just snatch all of our information right out of the air. So I think you wait until you're somewhere secure on a connection that's secure to do those kinds of transactions.
So if you're in the airport, you don't open your bank account.
No, I wouldn't.
No.
I wouldn't.
That makes sense. Well, many of us now also do things besides being at home. We go out.
Right.
And that's another area where identity thieves are lurking.
Yeah.
And we have another viewer question.
Okay.
Claire writes, when I go out to shop or run errands, I'm never sure how much personal ID to take with. Is there a rule? How much is too much?
Well, I think the main thing is that you never want to carry your Social Security card. Your Social Security number and your Social Security card are like the gateway to your identity. So unless you absolutely need them, unless you are going somewhere where you are going to have to show that Social Security card, don't take it. Don't carry it around. So I think that's first and foremost. And then it just becomes a matter, I think, of limitations. If you're going somewhere to, shop or buy something and you have a limit, you know how much you're going to spend and how much money you need, you have that one card, that one debit card or that one credit card.
So don't take every single one of your store cards and your credit card.
No. If you're not going to those stores, you don't need to take those cards. So I think we just have to limit and know what we're spending, know what we're going out for. Another thing is, even before we get out, we're in the car. A lot of times we want to run in the store and, I just need to grab this out of my purse, or I just need this card out of my wallet. And we leave the wallet or the purse in the car.
That's not a good thing.
Not a good idea. Not a good idea, because you've instantly just made yourself and your car, a target for a thief.
The same thing is true as far as if you leave your briefcase there.
Yeah, exactly. Anything like that a thief walking by might think, that there's something they could get from it. So you just want to avoid doing that kind of thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, we have another question that relates to that. Blanca writes, I worry about using my credit card and debit card in public. What can I do to help make sure I don't end up in trouble?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we are out and there's so many people all around and we're busy and we're doing all kinds of things. You really have to make sure that you're protecting your information. So if you're at the store, you're at the counter, you're buying something, shield your card. Kind of put your hand over when you're typing your PIN number.
Right.
Make sure there's nobody standing over your shoulder looking, trying to see your card. They call it shoulder surfing.
Right. There's a reason for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of times it happens, the cashier might say that they need another piece of information from us, a phone number or something. Don't just blurt that information out.
For all those ears that are listening.
For everybody standing around here. Take a pen, jot it down. The ATM, that's another perfect place. You're at the ATM, again, shield your card. If there are people behind you, make sure no one can see you typing your PIN. When you're done, get your card, get your receipt, get your money, put everything away. If you're at the ATM at night, make sure it's well lit. We just have to think, just be mindful about our surroundings.
Right, mindful of our surroundings, and not just from the point of view of identity theft, but from the point of view of just personal safety in general.
Exactly.
One of the things that I found surprising and kind of disturbing when I was researching for the show this time is I found out that one of the areas of identity theft that's really on the rise is identity theft for children.
Yeah.
And you don't think about kids having identities, but
they do.
Each of our kids do.
Yeah.
How can we keep our children safe?
You're absolutely right. Each of our kids has an identity. The moment they get assigned a social security number, they've got an identity. So, and you're right, it is on the rise. It truly is on the rise. So you want to make sure that just like you're protecting your own information and your own identity, that you're taking those same steps and going through those same kinds of safeguards for your child. So just like you're not going to carry your social security card, don't carry your child's. Unless you are going somewhere where you've got to show that information, about them, for them, don't carry it around. Just like you're going to keep all of your documentation safe and locked away, you're going to do that for your child. Their birth certificate, their cards, things that involve them, their documents, keep them locked away. Keep them in a safe place. It's the same. We have to be just as, I guess what I'm saying is we have to be just as diligent about protecting our children's identity as we do for ourselves. Because identity thieves sometimes identity thieves would rather get a child's identification because it's what they call cleaner,
Oh, really?
And they will open utility services and cell phones just like they would do with an adult. The problem is, that's a problem in and of itself, but the next problem is that it might be years before your child finds out.
Until they go
they might be 18, before they go to apply for something, or it's time for student loans, or they're getting their first credit card, and now they find out that back when they were 7, somebody used their identity and has been using it all this time, and then you're really in a huge problem.
What is one way, at least, that we can find out as early on as possible?
Well, I think the best way is to request and review our credit reports. We are all entitled, from each of the 3 main credit reporting agencies, we are entitled to a copy once every 12 months of our credit reports. So we have to get them, and we have to review them and see what's on there. Make sure there isn't information there that shouldn't be. Nobody's opened an account in our name, and now they're not paying the bills and we're being negatively impacted by it. So I think that's the main way. That's going to be the quickest and most effective way of learning, whether or not we've become a victim.
It's interesting. When I reviewed my credit report at one point, what I found is that they had an address where I'd never lived. And that led from one thing to another.
Exactly.
It's subtle thing,
that's
but it
exactly
was
right.
really
so you want to make sure that you're checking for that your address is correct, your employment information, your name is spelled correctly, your birth date, all of that. So you really want to get the credit report. That's an excellent point. You want to get the credit report and really review all of that information very carefully.
Well, what other danger signs are there that you might be a victim?
Well, again, the credit report's one. Kind of back to the mail, sort of another little take on the mail. When your bills are due, when they come in. If a time has come and gone, a time when your bill should have has come and passed and you haven't gotten it.
Like for a credit card?
Yeah, if your Discover bill, usually comes at a certain time of the month. If it hasn't come, you might want to check, because one thing that identity thieves do, they divert our mail. They put in a change of address and have our mail going somewhere else. So if you aren't getting your mail, that might be a sign that, maybe something has gone wrong. You're getting calls maybe from debt collectors. You're not behind on your bills, but they're debt collectors calling you about accounts that you don't know of. You're getting things in the mail with names,
that you don't recognize.
That you don't recognize, places that you've never applied to. Those kinds of things. So you really have to be mindful, and you really have to be paying attention to that kind of stuff.
Well, if you notice any of those signs, what should you do?
Well, I think the first thing to do is contact one of the 3 major credit reporting agencies and ask them to place a fraud alert on your file. That's going to be an important thing, and you only have to call one of them, because when you contact one, that one that you contact will contact the other 2. So that's a great thing. A great first kind of step is to get that fraud alert placed. The other thing you want to do is compile something that's called an identity theft report. So you want to go to the FTC. That's something you're going to be able to do through the FTC. And having this identity theft report is going to help you get fraudulent information removed, and handled kind of off of your credit report. It's kind of a twofold thing, though. You have to go to the FTC's website. It's www.ftc.gov/complaint. You have to go to that site and fill out the complaint affidavit and get that filed.
I've heard of that before.
You get that affidavit filed, and then you have to take that to your local police or to the police where the fraud occurred, you know, whichever your area is, and have that filed. So it's kind of a twofold
It's
thing.
actually, you've got to do both of those things. You've got the FTC affidavit that you fill out, and then you take that over to the local police.
Exactly, and they're going to file the report and combine. That's your kind of total report.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Once you actually have done those things, how long does it normally take for you to recover your credit rating? And
that's hard to say. That's hard to say.
There's no easy answer.
There really is no easy answer. It really does just kind of depend on every person's individual situation. You just, though, want to make sure that you stay on top of it. So you want to make sure if you're calling and you're talking to people about fraudulent accounts, you know the names and numbers and times and dates, and you've kept a record of everything, and you've made a copy of any paperwork.
To document everything.
Yeah, you really want to document just to stay on top of the process, and it will eventually, you know, kind of get corrected, but it can take some time. And so I think because I can't answer that specifically, I think what I can say is really just stay committed to it.
And the sooner you do it, the better.
Exactly.
Don't wait if you think there's a possibility that you become a victim.
Don't wait at all. Really get right on top of it and stay on top of it until it's done. www.annualcreditreport.com. That's all one word. www.annualcreditreport.com, and they'll be able to get all 3 of the reports from there.
And that's really the only website that is truly for free.
Exactly. That's the only free place. All those other places that say they're free and they have those cute little jingles, they're really not free. Annual Credit Report is the only free place.
Point. Now, also, as far as that goes, do you recommend getting it all at once or throughout the year? How do you do that?
I recommend you stagger it. I don't think that you should go in the beginning of the year and get it from all 3, because then you're locked out for the rest of the year. So stagger it throughout the year. The beginning of the year, the middle of the year, the end. You know, that way you're having a chance to look at it all throughout the year.
Oh, that's excellent. That's good advice. Now, does CCCS, do you guys have any like educational tools that people can use to learn more about credit reports?
Absolutely. They can go to our website, www.cccs-inc.org. We have all kinds of great information. There's a self-directed e-learning course. We have podcasts, all kinds of great information about identity theft. Just go to the website and go to the education section, and there's all kinds of great stuff there.
That's amazing. I also noticed you have one on understanding credit reports and credit scores.
We do. We do. We have one on all kinds of topics, and that's one of them too. So yeah, there's great information on the site. Great information.
That's wonderful. And for those people who kind of feel like they need some help obtaining and reviewing their credit report, can they come to CCCS for that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Come to us. We're there for free, confidential counseling. Our counselors are standing by the phones. You just have to call 1-800-642-2227, and we're there to take appointments. We can do counseling over the phone. They can come into our offices here in Salisbury and Dover. Any way we can help.
That sounds absolutely wonderful. You guys really do good work.
We try.
Well, on that note, do you have any parting advice for our audience?
Well, in the case of identity theft, because it is so prevalent, it is such a big deal, just stay on top of it. There's always some new information coming out. There's always, new things that are changing and happening. So it just pays to be informed. And again, like we said, if you feel like you've been a victim, if you think you've been a victim, don't wait to get help. It's really important.
Those are good words to live by.
Yeah.
On that note, I want to thank our audience for viewing today. We always love it when you tune in. And I want to thank PAC 14. Without them, we certainly would not be here. And Deanna, I want to thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
A wonderful resource for us, and we look forward to talking to you again.
I enjoy it. Thank you.
And all of the rest of you, tune in again with us when we do Money Talks.
Would you like to see your community organization or nonprofit group featured on PAC 14? To get started, contact us at 410-677-5014. or visit our website at www.pac14.org. PAC 14 is a great way to connect with your community.